Do you know what's even more fun than talking about old Magic sets? Opening them too. Oh yeah, that's right, I got this. Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, and welcome to my video on the first standalone set in all of Magic. This is pretty cool, honestly. When you go back and look at the old documentation for it, it actually reads like, well, you know when you pick up a game off the shelf and they have like a standalone expansion, it's like, this can be played as its own game or with the original game. If you go back and look at the old advertising for Ice Age, that's how it's worded. Have a sealed deck right here that we are going to end up cracking open after I talk about some of this to give you some context. I find it's more enjoyable to go through these things when you have a little bit of understanding. So Ice Age came out in, where was it? I wrote the date down. June of 1995. 383 card set. Now the set was 8% reprints and 8% functional reprints. If you don't know what a functional reprint is, it's the exact same thing as another card with just a different name. Like if you have Grizzly Bears, which is a green and a colorless for a 2/2 creature with no abilities, and then I make Moogavugu Bears that are 2/2 for a green and a colorless with no abilities, that's a functional reprint. So the set was 8% functional reprints and 8% straight up reprints of staples from earlier sets like Giant Growth, Swords to Plowshares, because this was the first time an expansion was being created as a product you could play separately. So as a result, this is the first expansion that has basic lands that show up in it at all. This is the first expansion that uses the brand new white mana symbol because they changed the white mana symbol during 4th edition, and they also changed the tap symbol during 4th edition, which means Ice Age is also the first expansion to have the new tap symbol. So there's a lot of newness to this. This is also the first expansion to have a cycle of color hosers, and that means each color has a card that screws a particular color, all right? And it's pretty neat. So other than that, the non-basic lands from this set have a special ice-themed text box to them. It's really cool, honestly. The set was interestingly designed. It's the first expansion as well that had a non-fixed print run. And what that means is instead of printing X number of cards, we're going to print for a certain amount of time. So as I mentioned, they started printing it in June of 1995. They printed it until February of 96. There's an estimate of about 500 million as the size of the print run. The set was inspired by Norse mythology, Scandinavian style. It's got that Scandinavian influence. The goals of this set, they found that games were going too quickly, so they wanted to slow games down. One of the ways that they did this was by really removing abilities like flying from most creatures. There were very few flyers. As a result, what happened was these older sets weren't designed for limited play. So when playing with just Ice Age, the games were incredibly slow and landlocked. So without much evasion, the set did not do well for limited against itself. They also wanted to push the allied colors playing with each other more, so they have cards that really push that sort of concept. So that basically covers all the basics that I want to say for this. The cost of this deck currently, as of this video's production, $50 Canadian. Now on the back, they have the original prices that these came out for, and that was $9, $8.95 US, and $12.95 Canadian. So this was originally $13, and now it's $50. And it has decades and decades, it's been sealed and been waiting to be opened. So guess what we're going to do right now? We're going to crack this open. We're going to see just how powerful this set is. All right, well now we come to the swimsuit portion of the competition where we all get to gawp and gork at it. Oh, sexy lady, look at your shiny outsides. Oh, honestly, I really enjoy this packaging. This was provided by 5 Staff. We were out at a big game store in Toronto today, and after we had done our dealings, he happened to notice that these were there. So he picked one up specifically so that I could open it. So thank you, 5 Staff. Now, look at this. Look at this crazy silver line. See, they don't do that. These are old school. This was the last expansion where you would buy, if you got a display of these, it came with 10 of them. This is the last set they did that with. And Ice Age also happens to be the first set that they introduced the new concept of booster wrapping with in terms of expansions. Before that, expansions had the white packaging that was really bad for being translucent and you could look through it. Whereas the stuff now, starting with Ice Age, you could no longer scan the packs for their contents. I gotta say, this is amazing, right? This was printed in 1995, and this box is like, it's mint. It's gorgeous, and this is so nice. Oh man, you know, like when Magic came out, Ice Age comes out, it comes along, and nobody really cared that much about keeping these kind of things for later on. You just, oh yeah, Ice Age is set from a few years ago, not that big a deal. But seeing it this much later, it makes such an impact. And it's funny to think at one point, Magic was actually going to be, like there was Magic the Gathering, this would have been Magic Ice Age. Ice Age would have been down here on the back of the card where it says The Gathering. But for legal reasons, they did not go ahead and do that, because when it comes to things like copyright and copyrighting the name of the game on the back of the card and stuff, it just would have cost a lot more money, according to my research. So this answers one question that we actually had right here. Me and Five Staff were debating whether you could only get snow-covered lands from booster packs, whether they only existed in these decks. Come on, guys, you put that silver line around... You put the silver line around the box, but not on this. Anyways, we were debating about how many and if snow-covered lands would be included in these. And now we have a definitive answer that there is at least one. And considering the snow-covered lands actually have some value currently, that means that the cost for this deck wasn't as egregious as it might first seem. And the cool thing as well is it comes with one of those rule books, old school, and Five Staff totally said I can keep that for research purposes, so that is absolutely lovely. Let's grab that out of there right now. That's part of the reason I didn't slash into it. Look at that. Oh, it's printed a little weird on the front, but that's okay. Ice Age rulebook. Okay, you know what? I'm not gonna ruin the surprise of that. We'll save that for another time. Okay, so we have, starting out here with the lands, we have snow-covered forest, snow-covered plain, snow-covered swamp. Okay, so now let me separate out the snow-covered lands. We'll see what the ratio is here. All right, regular, regular, regular. So 3 snow-covered, 3 regular. Another snow-covered, another regular, 1 snow-covered. 3 more regular, 1 snow-covered, 1 regular, 2 snow-covered, 5, 6 regular. All right, so let's see here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We got 8 snow-covered lands, but it's not an equal distribution in terms of we didn't get any islands. You can see there were no islands whatsoever. But, I mean, in terms of snow-covered lands, that's not too shabby, actually. I think Five Staff will be happy with that. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. What the? 14 and 8? There's 22? What? 22 lands? What the hell? Is that how they did this? Is that even right? What? Does it say on the box? All right. That's screwing with me, guys. I was expecting 20 or 25. 22? What the hell? All right. Anyways, Five Staff said, I don't know what's rare in here because none of it has expansion symbols and I don't remember any of this. The good news is I do. So we're looking at a rare right here. This is Goblin Lear. This thing is sacrifice it, flip a coin, target opponent calls heads or tails while coin is in the air. If the flip ends up in your favor, it deals X damage to that opponent where X is equal to the number of creatures you control. Back then they used to use a little star asterisk instead. Otherwise, the Goblin Lear deals the X damage to you, where X is equal to the number of creatures the opponent controls. So this is a pretty garbage rare. This is not something you're really going to want to play with. Then we've got Caribou Range. Oh my god, I won. I remember winning against a massively powerful deck in a tournament using this, and my opponent was just like, I can't believe I lost to Caribou. I smashed his moat. I had a bunch of Caribou, because it makes 0/1 Caribou tokens. I had a bunch of Caribou, put out a Crusade, so they were all 1/2, and then I kicked his teeth in with Caribou. I Caribou that. All right, there you go. That sounded Canadian as hell. Caribou that. All right. Oh, God, guys. Oh, fuck. Five Staff, dude. God, this deck is brutal. This is the third rare. Glacial Crevasses. 1 red, 2 colorless enchantment. 0. Sacrifice a snow-covered mountain. No creatures deal damage in combat this turn. Now, the thing about the Snowlands were, these were added in development really late in Ice Age. And that's a problem, guys. They didn't flesh it out. And so the cards that reference snow are not very good. There's 2 cards that let you sacrifice Snowlands to prevent all combat damage. This red one that does it for 0, and an artifact as well. This is just, these rares are brutal. And that actually ends the rares. So we move into the uncommons now. This is Limdual's Hex. It's black and a colorless. During your upkeep, it deals 1 damage to each player. They may pay 1 black or 3 to prevent the damage to themselves. It's really underwhelming, but the artwork's pretty gross and intense. Then we got Goblin Mutant, the 3-faced goblin. Look at that shit. Let's get a close-up on him. Wow, look at me. I'm ridiculous. Ice Age had such ridiculous artwork. Can you get even closer? Come on, camera. Is he too ugly to focus on? Fine. Be like that. Illusionary Terrain. This guy right here, cumulative upkeep of 2. This was another... cumulative upkeep was a keyword that was invented for Ice Age specifically. Basically means you have to pay 2, then 4, then 6. It keeps increasing as you go along. And you pick a basic land type, and all land types of that type become another type of your choice. And the artwork is amazing. This island turning into a snowy lands, I enjoy that. Or the other way around. That might be what's happening. Fumarole. 5 mana sorcery. Pay 3 life to destroy target creature and target land. That's not too shabby. I like how the old school cards too, you're paying 3 life, and back then they had to specify on the cards, effects that prevent or redirect damage cannot be used to counter this loss of life. Like no, you're paying the life. There's no way to get around it. Hematite Talisman. This is part of an artifact cycle from Ice Age. Pay 3 mana, untap target permanent. Use this ability only when a red spell is successfully cast. Now, successfully cast actually just means cast. It literally means you paid the mana and said you were casting the spell. It has nothing to do with the spell being countered, but it totally makes you think that. It may as well say, use this ability only when you're smart enough to figure out how to cast a red spell, because that's how I read these. They made one for every color. It is a terrible card. Wind Spirit, 5 mana for a 3/2 flyer, and it can't be blocked by only 1 creature. So this thing was like one of the kings of the sky in Ice Age Limited. In anything else, it's garbage. But in Ice Age Limited, first of all, it has flying, which is insane. Secondly, you need 2 flyers to block it, so it's Beefcake City. Then we've got, well, look at that. A misprint. Ooh. Old school misprints like this are actually hard to come by and interesting. I might ask Phil if I can have this. This is cool. Look at that. I don't know how well it's going to pick it up. Probably not very well at all. But there's like black up here. You can actually kind of see it beside the text line, even in the blurriness. So there's black along the edges of that. All right. So that wasn't printed very well. Freyalise's Charm. This is whenever an opponent casts a black spell, draw a card. You pay 2 green to do it. It's really, I mean, the problem with this is they had already made Life Force, which is an enchantment that costs the exact same amount, activates for the same, but counters spells. It's much more powerful. This is weak garbage. Shield of the Ages. I actually liked this card when it came out. I played with it. 2 colorless artifact, pay 2, prevent 1 damage to. It's really not good enough, but back then games were slower, and it was just fun to have, and I like the artwork for it. Portent. That's actually a pretty good blue common. Card draw. Barbarian Guides, 3 mana to give a creature you control snow-covered land walk. And at the end of your turn, you return that creature to its owner's hand. And you have to pay 3 mana to do it. It's garbage. I'm going to pay 3 mana to give my guy snow-covered land walk and bounce it back to my hand after the end of turn. Terrible. All right, so I'm just going to start to show you the artwork of the card here, and I'm not going to read every single card because I'm going to look for notable things that let me tell you about the history. So this right here is Blessed Wine. This is one of the first cantrips in the game, and cantrips are spells that let you get a small effect from the card and also draw a card. So these were what are called slow trips, because instead of drawing the card immediately, it would set up a trigger that was delayed to give you the card during the next upkeep. And not during your next upkeep, during the next upkeep. So it's weird. Tarpon's just a weird little horse. Ray of Command was an interesting way to steal somebody's creature at instant speed for 1 turn instead of using a control magic enchantment. Really enjoyed the variation on that. Rally is just whatever. Legions of Limdual. Limdual was a massive part of the flavor of Ice Age. He's an incredible character we'll be talking about. Errant Minion is just a really garbage blue enchantment. Findhorn Brownie. 3 mana, untap a creature, 3 mana to put it out. It's 1/1, nothing special, but the artwork is hilarious. Power Sink. This card, back when it was still an interrupt, one of the most powerful counterspells ever. Because even if you were in the middle of a batch, the player had to respond and tap all their lands and couldn't do anything other than cast another interrupt in response. So dirty. Kelsinko Ranger. Only notable to me because I had one in a league and I named him Buzz Lightyear. Wrote it right on the card. Flare. This is old school burn. It shows you how a lot of old school burn was hit or miss. You get lightning bolt for 1 red, do 3 damage to any target. This is 1 damage to any target for 3 mana. This is another one of those slow trips. You draw a card at the beginning of the next turn. Limb Duel's cohort. Did we see that already, or did we see Legions of Limb Duel? See? Limb Duel's everywhere. Zombies are all up in your grill. Panic. This is one of those old school red, you can't block me. They had lots of effects like this. Barbed Sextant is an absolute piece of garbage artifact with art that looks really stupid to me. I don't like it. Woolly Spider was always funny to me. I'm a big hairy spider. Come give me a hug, bro. Foxfire is weird. The artwork always messed me up because it took me so long to realize this right here was the Foxfire. I was like, what is even going on here? Like, you got this weird little stylized extra border and the wolf up in the corner. Like, it's so unlike any other Magic artwork or very few other pieces of Magic artwork. Look at that. Like, look, what the fuck is this shit? What the fuck is all that? This is the Foxfire. The person just did the Foxfire and like, oh, this is bullshit. I better paint some other crap and put some fucking snowflakes over here. Cooperation. This is awesome because the artwork is absurd. This gives creatures banding. This gives a creature banding. 3 mana enchant, give a creature banding, which is garbage. But the artwork's so fun. Like, the evil guy with the big grin on his face and the big jug fucking ebony woman. Like, yeah, we're friends now. Tor Giant, this is a functional reprint, guys. When I mentioned reprints, this is a functional reprint of Hill Giant. Exact same card, just named Tor Giant. Brown Oof. This one is cool. I actually liked this guy. 1 mana, 1/1. Pay 2 and tap him to counter an artifact artifact activation that requires an activation cost. That's cool. I enjoy that. Circle of Protection Black. They put the entire circle of the entire cycle of all 5 circles in this. Now, they discontinued printing the circles, I believe, around 9th edition, probably because Circles of Protection are overpowered and unfun to play against. If you're playing a monocolored deck and somebody puts down a Circle of Protection, you're fucked if you can't destroy it. I mean, it's 2 mana to put out, and they can prevent all the damage from any source for a mana. It's so good in terms of reusability. These were one of my favorite cards when I started playing Magic. They felt so broken to me. Mystic Remora, hey! That's like a $4 uncommon, I think. I'll have to double check, it might have changed, but that's actually value. Nice. 1 blue enchantment. It's got a cumulative upkeep of 1, so you have to pay 1 extra each turn. Whenever your opponent casts a non-creature spell, you get to draw a card unless he pays 4. So that's awesome. Either you get in card draw, it slows your opponent down. Really like this card. I've always loved it since the beginning. Although, the artwork has always seemed retarded to me. This fish, like, check it out, I'm the tattooed fish. I'm gonna mess up your opponent. Keljoran Dead. Now, this was an aggressive creature. I remember being terrified of this thing. 1 mana for a 3/1 that regenerates for a black? That's so strong. Like, god damn. You have to sack a creature when it comes into play to get that, obviously. But, man, he's powerful. Hey, and we got the Circle Green. It's got some frogs humping on it. And the Foul Familiar. Guys, this is one of the grossest artworks from back in the day. I remember being really, really grossed out by that. Because not only when you look at the artwork, but it's like pay 1 life, return Foul Familiar to its owner's hand. That means it's going back to your mind. That did spring out of your mind. That's inside your head, guys. That's terrifying. Now, as you can see, the power level of this set is incredibly low. There are very few cards, even outside of the ones that I've shown you here, that have a high power level. There are some, but overall, the set is definitely not a powerful set. But it's an interesting one and a flavorful one. So I hope you enjoyed this historical opening of awesomeness. My thanks again to 5 Staff for providing this and also allowing me to keep this for my research purposes. All right, my friends. Thanks for coming by. Make sure to tap that like button with your nose and hit the subscribe with your toes for loving my flows. Later.
Hello. This is Enrique, all the way from Portugal. I'm here just to say that I was about 20 years without playing Magic, but now I'm back and I love this channel. And together we are the 6th Color of Magic.